Well, hey there, modern math teacher Kristen Moore here, and I am so excited to bring you another week of Poolside PD here on the Modern Math Teacher podcast, where we explore the most effective instructional practices for math classrooms. Poolside PD is our bite sized PD where I'm answering the topics and questions that you have asked me most throughout this year and that you have prompted for our summer series. So, today, you guys, we are diving into one of my all time favorite things. You know, I love project based learning, right? I love this even more foundationally than I love based learning, and that is the power of problem solving. We are going to dive in to the problem of power solving. Ooh, power of problem solving in education. You guys, you may not know this about me, but I, back in the day, had an entire website, an entire Weebly website dedicated to problem solving and higher order thinking tasks. It was called, and I kid you not, more than just X. Weebly.com. So you can, oops, you can now go find that. That's fine. And that's before I got married, right? So when I became a more, I knew everything was just fate. But for the longest time, I have wanted to prioritize problem solving and critical thinking skills for my math students. You guys, I'm looking at this sweet baby picture of little Kristen, and it says, my goal is for teaching students to teach them how to think mathematically. Thinking mathematically is a way of understanding logic and developing a strong ability to problem solve, a specific skill that not our people are able to acquire and that I must strive to help my students achieve. Oh my gosh, you guys. It says I want to educate my students in a way that turns them into problem solvers. I will provide students with problematic situations in which they need to use their critical thinking to find the answer. Guys, that is what I developed and devoted my entire senior thesis to. That's what this is for. And what I then went forward and pursued my master's in. I have a master's in teaching and curriculum with a focus on mathematical problem solving. So I know that problem solving tasks and problem based learning and thinking tasks have been hot and fresh in education for the last couple of years. But you guys, this goes back so much further. So I want to unpack that a little bit for you today, give you a little history on the power of problem solving and why it is so important that we use it in our classrooms today. Okay. So, first of all, what do I mean when I mean like problem solving and kind of like problem based learning, right? So we know a lot about thinking tasks and using a thinking classroom, right? But what about just the skill of problem solving or using problem based learning? So problem based approaches to understanding the mathematical concepts. So let's talk about what problem based learning is, because problem based learning is essential to developing those problem solving skills. And we use it in a variety of ways. It's like one of our pedagogical tools in our tool belt that we can use as best practices in our classroom. So, in some, like problem based learning, or sometimes referred to as PRBL, as opposed to just PBL, right? Is all about engaging your students in short, focused problem solving activities. Unlike PBL, project based learning, that's going to be hard for me to keep straight for a minute, which often spans over weeks and culminates in a final product and presentation. Problem based learning is going to hone in on specific standards over 1 to a few days. And this method is going to encourage some deep mathematical thinking and active discussion, just like we've talked about in the thinking classroom. But I want to bring this way back and talk about the legacy of problem solving in math education, because it goes far before building thinking classrooms got its fame. That's why he got to spend 15 years researching it, because it's not a new concept, but it has been brought to fresh eyes. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a peek into problem solving in math education before BTC. So now that we have that out of the way, what problem-based learning is, let's focus on problem solving in math education, because problem solving and using problems to teach students thinking skills, like I said, existed long before this craze has hit the math teacher scene. So today we're going to talk about two of my favorite books or authors that taught me about the importance of problem solving. And there are so many of them out there, but these are two that are still sticky noted and still accessible in my library. So clearly they are two that I would strongly recommend to you. First up, we are going to look at Magdalene Lampert and Teaching Problems and the Problems of teaching. So this was one that I have sticky noted with all the things. Why is it that we're teaching problems? How do we help our students keep track of the goal? Can anybody explain what so and so is thinking? So giving you those really great stems to start that discussion in your classrooms. Okay. So, this book is amazing. It emphasizes teaching mathematical concepts through problem solving. And her approach really kind of transformed how we view math discussions in the classroom. So, alongside this book, I would say you also would want to look at 5 practices for orchestrating productive mathematical discussions. But again, teaching problems and the problems of teaching, Magdalene Lampert. It says in this fascinating book, an experienced classroom teacher takes us into her 5th grade math class. So, okay, we teach high school. A lot of you are middle and high school teachers here with me. But this works from all grade levels, okay? And so she shows how classroom dynamics are critical to improving student performance, and how she uses an original model of teaching practice that casts new light on ways teachers can successfully deal with teaching problems. So, shout out to Magdalene Lampert, and you need to go grab this book, you guys, if this is something you are interested in. Strongly recommend. This is copyright 2001, so 23 years ago. 23 years ago. Okay. Next up, I want to introduce you to Max Ray, Powerful Problem Solving. You can see all sorts of stickies still up in this. And this is an awesome book because it has activities for sense making with the mathematical practices. So you can get all 8 mathematical practices in here. But hello, the big highlight here is the powerful measures of problem solving, which is, of course, one of our 8 math practices here. So this book is just chock full of ideas on how you can incorporate different activities to hit those different standards. Doing things with like noticing and wondering, learning through listening, having a couple of different team challenges, ways to get students to be actively listening to one another, and the role of communicating, which I think is so important for all of the activities that we're trying to get our students to do in classes lately. Okay, so again, just an amazing book, full of activity ideas that I know that you're just going to love. So, I've got, like I said, I can't even tell you how many of these are sticky noted. They're just so good, and I really like this as a compliment to the Magdalene Lampert. She's got a lot of the ideas of like why we should do this, what it looks like in action. So, like if you want to know a classroom account of what's going on, that is definitely a book I would recommend for you. If you want a bunch of different strategies and activities for incorporating problem solving alongside the other math practices in your classroom, you've got to get Max Ray's Powerful Problem Solving. I will make sure to have both of these books linked in the show notes. And of course, always the Building Thinking Classroom books, right? Peter Lillydahl's Building Thinking Classrooms continues on like this legacy of why is it important to teach through problem solving? Why is it important to teach through discussions? Why is it that we want our students actively thinking in our math classes? And that's what I have on my website over here. Taking what one has learned and being able to apply that in new situations is truly the goal of learning how to think mathematically. And that philosophy serves as a basis for how I run my classroom. Y'all, that is from 2010, probably when I made this. And I still believe that to this day. My goal is to turn my students into mathematical thinkers, into active problem solvers who can apply creativity and critical thinking to their problems. It is not just about memorizing a rote set of procedures. That is why I believe, as you might know, that math is so much more than just solving for X. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of these benefits. I know that if you're here, you're on board with this, but let's just break those down a little bit. So, problem-based learning or focusing on problem solving in the math classroom is so beneficial to our students because it does enhance that critical thinking, it fosters collaboration, and it keeps our students engaged with authentic problems. So things that I really love about this, it is real. Our students are going to be working together in teams and actively problem solving as they move beyond our classroom, more so than they're going to need to remember how to calculate slope or find the distance formula. They're going to need to know how to be critically thinking and how to collaborate with one another. And I love that it engages students often in authentic problems or challenging problems because we want to make sure that we are focusing on real, relevant, and rigorous work for our students. So making sure that it's meaningful, they can apply it to their lives, and it's something that they really can just kind of chew on and think about for a while. I love this approach because it isn't just about finding that right answer. It's about the journey of problem solving and the skills that are developed along the way. So, if you're thinking about implementing some problem solving strategies or problem based learning into your classroom, a couple of steps to create a friendly classroom environment for you. One, you want to think about how to identify and design those mathematical problems. Two, you want to think about structuring your group work and your collaboration. And three, you want to think about how to provide resources and guidance for this more kind of student centered approach. So, to implement more problem solving activities and problem based learning, you want to start by finding or designing problems that are relevant and challenging. You can think about Max Ray's book, BTC Facebook groups, um, making math moments. You can find 3-act tasks, Desmos, so many options to find these really good activities and problems to get you started. You also want to structure your group work to encourage collaboration and act as a facilitator of this learning. It's kind of a new role for you, teacher. You are more than just the sage on the stage. You're going to be the guide on the side. You're going to guide students through this problem solving process, and you're going to be noticing and wondering and taking notes on what our students are doing along the way. And lastly, you want to think about how to use assessment with that. So you want to use things like formative assessment to provide ongoing feedback, take notes for yourself, give feedback to your students, push that learning, and find different ways to evaluate their understanding. Nice. Problem solving and problem based learning are so foundational to our student success. Our students can stumble over procedures, they can struggle with some of the number concepts. And those are things that we can help them with repetition and mastery. But the true power in mathematics education lies in turning our students into problem solvers, into critical thinkers who are able to encounter new problems, think about ways to apply the mathematics that they know, their numeracy skills, their quantitative literacy skills, and reason through and solve problems that they don't know. Because we are preparing our students for jobs of the future where they may not need to know, as I mentioned, maybe the quadratic formula. They're not going to need to know that, but they are going to need to know how to look at a formula, look at the variables, think about how to apply these same skills to new and novel situations. And that is the power of implementing problem based learning and problem solving strategies in your classroom. You are better equipping your students to be leaders in their industry tomorrow. And I can't think of a better way to do that and a more meaningful way to use our math class time. So, all right, you guys. Whew, okay, clearly problem solving, problem based learning, critical thinking, all of these things near and dear to my heart. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you go check out some of those books that I brought up. The impacts of Lampert and Ray and Lily Dahl and so many other people is profound on the study of math education. I love all of their work. And now it's your turn to go bring problem solving into your classroom. As you do, make sure that you are sharing your experiences with us. And let's continue to build these thinking, problem solving classrooms together. Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Poolside PD on the Modern Math Teacher. For more resources on problem based learning, go check out the show notes. I'm going to link to some different websites. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. It helps teachers like you find this podcast and get a little bit more benefit too. So until next time, you guys, I'm going to go check out that beautiful day that's outside. You keep inspiring and empowering your students. And as always, keep it real.